The Soulsborne series has always been ripe with juicy lore, although it's never obvious because most of it exists in the items and equipment of the game, as well as part of the game's few pieces of dialogue and loading screens. Because of this, there are many channels dedicated to adding up every little fact and explain the lore of the games in lush detail, and the end product has been great stories with a lot of depth and a specific style only known from the guys from Software, which they have been doing this since the days of Kingsfield on the PlayStation 1. Today we're going to start a sequence of explanation videos about From Software's latest game, Elden Ring. In Elden Ring, you play as one of the Tarnished, which are a group of warriors and heroes that were banished from the realm of the lands between, sometime before a powerful relic called the Elden Ring was destroyed. Consider this similar to being one of the chosen undead, bearers of the Curse of the Ashen Ones in the Dark Souls saga. Now you may be asking yourself, why was I banished, and why did I come back? The state of affairs you find yourself at the beginning of the game is an event called the Shattering, which was a war between the children of Marika, who were demigods in the lands between. The events that led to the war began one night when a mysterious covenant of assassins started killing demigods one by one. The God Queen, as any good matriarch, would have protected as many as she could, but her sons were too many and too far apart that she was unable to save them all. So many lives were lost. The death of any demigod was devastated for the God Queen, but the worst of them all was the loss of Godwyn the Golden, the first demigod to die. Not only because he was the most cherished of her children, but because after his death, the Elden Ring shattered and any semblance of order in the realm was lost. Then with uncertainty came chaos. A horrible war started that pitted kin against kin and brought chaos and destruction to the lands between. The once prosperous realm had now turned bitter with a war that had no clear end in sight because nobody in this now fragmented lands could get the upper hand. Every faction and lord was so evenly matched that not even the use of great runes was enough to give any of them the edge over the other. It was all a cycle of death and doom, with no clear winner in sight. The fires of war raged for some time and were only quelled when everybody realized that no amount of power or skill would give a definitive advantage to anybody. A statement that became soldered in the minds of every faction after the fight between General Rada and Melania the Severed. This ended the full-scale war in the lands between, but left the ravaged realm in a tense stalemate. That is until now, when you, a Tarnished, come back home. Before the war, the land was empowered by grace, which is some sort of essence of power that comes from the great Erdtree, the giant golden tree that can be seen in all the marketing and almost any footage of the game. This tree powers itself through the Elden Ring, even at its current state, and rains grace over the land. You were once a recipient of such grace, but one day your grace was lost. You were banished from the land and cursed with being unable to die. You were forced to stay in an unknown place, disgraced and without the ability to properly live, but also unable to have the respite of the hands of death. After the Elden Ring was shattered, you and every other Tarnished were called back to the land between to collect the pieces of the Elden Ring and restore it. But how this endeavor is done is entirely up to you. As told by the game's creator, Hidetaka Miyazaki, the way you interpret the story is almost as important as the story itself. Going back to your homeland after being punished and left wandering around the world with no purpose, and without the sweet release of death, creates a scenario in which you can make your return in one of several ways. You could take the path of revenge and rebel against the forces that once cast you out, vow to become an important force in the land between, or try to redeem yourself by rebuilding the Elden Ring and getting back the status you once had. Everything is up for grabs, and you are at the center of it all. You may be back from exile, and you may or may not have a clear purpose, but the state of the world you once called home isn't pretty. Ruins are scattered all over the realm, serving as a sad reminder of how the land used to be before the Shattered happened. Monsters and demons roam the land, and will attack anything they lay their eyes on. Many former nobles were reduced to vagabonds dressed in rags, or ghouls, and the remaining demigods, along with their most powerful servants, stand as guardians of each area, prepared to stop you when you eventually find them. You as the player need to find the pieces of the shattered Elden Ring, but for what purpose? Is it your goal to take the crown, as the storyteller tells you in the trailer, or are you looking for something else? These questions linger in your mind as you take your steps towards Limgrave. The first encounter after you come out of the Fringe Folk's hero's grave and into Limgrave tells you that even near the cave, there is a hostile environment waiting for you when the first human that you see tells you to die in a ditch somewhere after making fun of the fact that you are quote-unquote maidenless.
Oh yes, Tarnished are we? come to the lands between for the Elden Ring? Of course you have. No shame in it. Unfortunately for you, however, you are maidenless. Without guidance, without the strength of runes, and without an invitation to the Round Table Hold, you are fated, it seems, to die in obscurity.
Now about maidens, they are servants of the Two Fingers, and they give guidance to the ones who are lost. See them as the main hub NPCs that you encounter in Dark Souls and Bloodborne, or the Maiden in Black from Demon Souls. Your maiden is named Melina, who you find early in your travels. She is a mysterious woman with a strange mark on her left eye. After you accept her as your maiden, she can be summoned at certain places and will help you in your endeavors, as well as drop valuable pieces of information now and then if you ask her at the right moment. Throughout this video, we have referred to the player as simply the Tarnished. But who or what do you really want to be? Will you be a vigorous hero, chieftain from the Badlands? Does a swift and deadly bandit in search of riches and pleasure is more your liking? Do you prefer to be a brilliant astrologer who still holds the power of the bygone school of glintstone magic? Perhaps you are more of a foreign warrior that only relies on strength in order to survive, or a vagabond whose abilities come from the hardship of being a homeless wanderer. You could also be a spy for the church, also known as a confessor, or a prophet that was cast out of society because nobody believed in what he had to say. Who knows? You may end up as an honorable samurai from a distant land, a prior elite glintstone student turned prisoner, or if you're feeling really up to the challenge, a wrench of a human being that is naked in both body and soul. But whichever path you choose, you will find your way and explore the lands between. Unlock its secrets. Make your decisions. Will you finally put an end to the stalemate that stems from an unfinished war? How will you do it? And how will this affect the entire realm? Whatever you do, something will change. But it is up to you to decide what and how. The world of Elden Ring is complex and fascinating, which is to be expected. And with the small explanation and characterization we have given today, we've only scratched the surface. There is a lot to talk about the world itself, the motives and customs of the different kinds of characters you will find, and even a glimpse into your backstory, as different classes interact in different ways and have their own little tales that explain where they came from. So what do you think? Are you enjoying the fascinating world of Elden Ring? If you would like us to continue to make more videos about Elden Ring and other video games, please don't forget to like and subscribe as we continue to make daily content here on Hypnos Mirror.